All right, Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rakaha Kwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing his truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. And I wanted to do, let me start off by saying welcome to another series of GMS on the Job, being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Once again, I'm here at the plantation, busting my ass, blood, sweat, and tears just to make ends meet. But while I'm doing the physical work here at Esau's plantation, I am also doing the spiritual work by providing edification in the form of a spiritual meal to provide a gourmet meal that the Lord's elect may be filled. So I wanted to do a response to a statement that was made here in the beloved brother Elder Malcolm from the Chicago camp. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
Deaf adder that stop at the ear. So when you basically would tell them, people would laugh at them and completely come against their the lie that the Egyptians were so-called white people, because there was a time frame. You have to understand. There was a time frame when Edomites, Caucasians, all right, had taken over Egypt. That's why the capital city is named Alexandria, all right? And they became the new people, same way they took over the portion of Asia that they call Europe, all right? And it pretty much happened at the same time.
And that's pretty much the point I wanted to get into, because for generations throughout history, these so-called white people who are known as the biblical Edomites have had a history of conquering a nation of people and then taking on their customs, taking on their ways, and then claiming themselves to be those people, when in actuality, they simply stole those customs and those heritages from those people, okay? Okay, and a matter of fact, since the spirit is on me, right? Because the original Romans were, they were Japhetic people, okay? Let's type in Rome ruled by Etruscans. Rome ruled by Etruscans, okay? And what do you see right here? You see people of color, okay? The Etruscans were people of color, okay? They were Japhetic people. But what happened? Well, when Alexander, okay, that leopard spoken of in the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, okay, that there arose a beast out of the sea, one like unto a leopard, having 4 heads. Okay, that leopard was Alexander. And when he rose up, okay, and took up arms to start a campaign to conquer and to basically to go to war and shit, okay? One of the places that his armies went to war against, one of the places that the Greeks, right? Because the original Greeks, they were also Japhetic people of color, right? One of the places that the Edomites, the so-called Greeks, went to war against were the Etruscans, okay? And the Etruscans were the original inhabitants or the inhabitants of what we know as Rome today. Okay. So here in the AI overview, right? Yes, for a period, Rome was ruled by Etruscan kings. This Etruscan dynasty is believed to have ruled from 616 to 509 BC. During this time, the Etruscans influenced Rome's early political framework, military organization, and civic structure. Eventually, the Romans overthrew the Etruscans. No, the Edomites overthrew the Etruscans because the Romans were the Etruscans. Okay, and that's what I'm saying here. Okay, the very first Romans were the Etruscans, which were Japhetic people. Okay, and you can see, they have like the flower on the head. Okay, they wear like the little flower ring on the head, the way they dress. Okay, you see that? The Etruscans dressed like this. Okay, and you could tell that Esau tried to whitewash, these Etruscan images. Okay, feasting with the Etruscans. What does that look like to you? Esau at one point coming in there, acting like he's making peace with the Etruscans, but then what happens? He being the serpent he is, break those treaties and end up going to war against the Etruscans. So Etruscans were people of color, okay? They were Japhetic people. And today, the Etruscans would be known as your Hawaiians, your Mauians, your Samoans, okay? Who were the Etruscans? Okay. So eventually the Edomites overthrew the Etruscan monarchy. And I believe the last Etruscan king of Rome, his name was Servius Tullius, if I remember correctly. Okay. Okay, overthrow of the monarchy in 509 BC. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, first Italic state. And yes, Rome did begin as the Etruscan outpost. So, I mean, that's pretty much the point that has been made, So they started a Roman Republic. And more than likely, that was Esau's doing. Okay, let's type in, let's type in, Rome, who was the last Etruscan king of Rome? Okay, let's see. Okay, so Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Okay, so I had to fact check that. So I said it was Servius Tullius. I know Servius Tullius was the I know he was one of the kings of Rome. Okay. So Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Okay, so Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. He died around 495 BC. Rome would never have a king again. Rome would never again have a king. Okay. And this, okay. Okay. His reign was marked by tyranny, culminating his overthrow. Okay. And okay. His overthrow and the establishment of the Roman Republic. Okay. Roman aristocracy led by Brutus. Let me see. So, this is all, history, research you can get into. But the point is that the original rulers of Rome were the Etruscans, which were all people of color. Okay, they were not so-called, the original Romans were not Edomites, which would be so-called white people. Okay, the original Romans were Japhetic people, which were known as the Etruscans during that time. So, again, we come over here, right? Because, see, Esau has a history of that. He'll take over a nation of people, and then he'll take on their customs and their fashions, and then he'll make it seem like he came up with it. Okay? But Psalms 49, verse 11, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Okay? At one point, the land of Africa was not called the land of Africa. On the ancient biblical map, the land of Africa was known as the land of Chum, which Chum, Chaam, is how you say Ham in the Hebrew. It would be known as the land of Ham, which the Hebrew word for Ham is Chum, okay, which means hot. It was known as because it's I believe it's a very, very hot land, probably the hottest land on the entire planet. Okay, so it was hot on that continent. So it was known as the land of Chum. But what happened when Lucius Scipius Africanus, okay, when he went to war against Hannibal and conquered Hannibal, okay, the Edomites decided that whole continent should be named after him, and thus you get the word, you get the name Africa from a Edomite Roman general, a Edomite Roman general who went by the name of Lucius Scipius Africanus. Okay. And I know Asia was named after somebody else too, Asiaticus, but let's just research it. Real quick. I'm gonna tear this box up. There we go. Okay, so let's come here and let's type in what Roman general was Asia named after. Okay. What Roman general was Asia named after? Okay. Okay. Okay, let me see. What is the origin of the name Asia? Let me see. Quora. What is this, man? Man, these ads are getting out of control. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Lucius Scipio Asiaticus. I know it was you see, but that you see, and Esau will do that. Okay, here we go. Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. This is who Asia was named after, okay? Okay, Asia was named after this guy right here. Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. So I was right. I did say Lucius Scipio Asiaticus. I just forgot Cornelius, because I remember this was one of the first few things I researched when I first came into the truth. Okay, so it's been a long time since I researched into this. Okay, Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. Okay, it says was a general and statesman of the Roman Republic. Okay, he was the son of Publius Cornelius Scipio and the younger brother of Scipio Africanus. So this dude was the younger brother of Scipio Africanus. Okay. Now remember, Africa was named after his older brother. He was elected consul, and later that year led with his brother the Rome forces to victory at the Battle of Magnesia. Okay. Then you can research the Battle of Magnesia. Okay, the Battle of Magnesia took place in either, let me see, okay, Roman Seleucid War, pitting forces of the Roman Republic, right? So, well, I guess we know who the Roman Republic was started by, right? The Roman Republic was started by Edomites. But anyways, pitting forces of the Roman Republic, led by the consul Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus, and the allied kingdom of Pergamon under Eumenes, against a Seleucid army of Antiochus III the Great. The two armies initially camped, northeast of Magnesia. Okay. Modern day Magnesia, okay, Turkey, attempting to provoke each other into a battle on favorable terrain for several days. Okay, but eventually you'll come to find out the Roman army won, and as a token of that victory, Asia was named after Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. So let's go back here. This is just other, research I'm gonna have to look more into. But you see, it's just like the book of Psalms says, they call their lands after their own names. Okay, so Africa was named after Lucius Scipio Africanus, and Asia was named after Africanus's younger brother, Lucio Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. Okay, America was named after who? Amerigo Vespucci. So you see, these devils have a history of naming different lands after their names, okay? And not only that, but they have a history of taking on other people's customs and traditions and acting like they've been living by those styles from since the time they've been in the caves and from the times when they came out the caves. Okay. So I'm gonna read it again. Psalms 49 verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places, okay, to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. So even to this very day, as the beloved brother Malcolm, as he would say, you got these people walking around, fraudulent people walking around, claiming to be us, and they're not. They're calling themselves, JEWISH, right? But they're not the real JEWs, And if anybody dare speak out, against their fraudulent activity, they pull the anti-SIM card. But we know that according to the Bible, the real JEWs are the so-called Negroes. And we can identify that because, when you read the scriptures about the Messiah, his description and how he looks, the Messiah of the Holy Scriptures do not fit the description of the image that you see in these Christian and Catholic churches. Okay, it don't fit the description because the Messiah, which according to Revelation 1 verse 13 down to 15, the Messiah is described as looking like a so-called black man with Negroid features. So of course Esau will go around claiming that he was the Egyptians because during the Syrian wars, of course, right? During the Syrian wars, the Ptolemaic Empire took over the southern regions, which would predominantly be down in where Egypt was. Okay. But as always, if you go down into Egypt, right? Okay. Esau goes into the hieroglyphs and all the other stuff. Okay. You'll see how, the ancient Egyptians, the original Egyptians were very tall, very dark, brown-skinned men with woolly hair, okay? Okay. Furthermore, when you go into the book of Maccabees, okay, it speaks about how these Edomites have sought to paint the likeness of our images. So even even when Esau, the Edomites, got control over our nation, they were trying to paint over our images and this, that, forth, and the other, Because again, the devil has a natural jealousy and envy toward our nation, and ultimately the Edomites, the self-proclaimed white man, he wants to be everything, man. And they kind of show you that in video games like Crash Bandicoot. Like if you ever played Crash Bandicoot Warp, okay, this dude is everything, okay? In Crash Bandicoot Warp, this nigga, he's the Egyptians, he's the warriors, the Templars, He's he's the civilians and the futuristic cities. He wants to be everything, bro. So, okay. Yeah, man. But, the covering. Let me see. I wonder if that's Isaiah 24. Let me look into that real quick. Give me a moment here. So that might be Isaiah 25. Okay, Isaiah 25 verse 7. And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. Okay, and what is that veil that have been spread over all nations? The Moabites being called Chinese people. In the Bible, okay, they were not called Chinese people. They were called Moabites. In the Bible, they were, the Japanese people were not called Japanese. They were called Ammonites. In the Bible, the so-called Africans were not called Africans. They were known as Hamites. Okay. In the Bible, the Arabians were not called Arabians. They were called Ishmaelites. Ishmaelites. Okay. Now you might see Arabians in there in the Bible, but when so-called Arabians first came on the scene in the book of Genesis, they were known as Ishmael. Okay. Okay, the East Indians, they were not called East Indians in the Holy Scriptures. Okay, being called an East Indian, that's a veil that was put over them. In the Bible, they are known as Elamites. Elamites. Okay, they are known as Elamites. Elamites or Elamites. Okay. Okay, even the true biblical Israelites, okay, which are the so-called Negro, Latino, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, okay, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians are the true biblical Israelites that the Holy Scriptures speak of. But what happened? A veil was put over us as well. Okay, so instead of being called a Issacharite, okay, you're being called a Mexican when you're really from the tribe of Issachar. Instead of being called a Judite from the tribe of Judah, you're being called black. You're being called African American. You're being called color, nigger, Negro. Okay. Excuse me. You know, here it is. You're from the tribe of Benjamin, right? But you're being called a West Indian. That being called a West Indian, that's a veil that was put over you. You're really an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay. Okay, you're being called a Haitian, but you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Levi. You see, you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Levi. But again, you being called a Haitian is a veil that was put over you. You know, you're from the tribe of Manasseh, but here it is, you're being called a Cuban. Being called a Cuban is a veil that was put over you. Okay, you're being called a Guatemalan. You're being called a Panamanian. That's a veil that was put over you. Okay, in reality, you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Zebulun. You're being called a Argentinian. You're being called a Chilean. But in actuality, You're actually an Israelite from the tribe of Naphtali. You're being called a Colombian, a Uruguayan. That's a veil that was put over you by the so-called white man. Okay? You're really an Israelite from the tribe of Asher. You're being called a Puerto Rican. Okay? That's a veil that was put over you. In reality, you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Ephraim. You're being called a North American Indian. But in reality, you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Gad. You're being called a Seminole Indian. That's a veil. You see, these are all veils that was put over you. Okay? In reality, you're really an Israelite from the tribe of Reuben. You're not a Seminole Indian. Being called a Seminole Indian is a veil that was put over you, man. Okay? Get this out. There. Whew, this rack is heavy. So, but let me carry this. How much is that? Almost 100 pounds? 75 pounds, something like that. But you know, these are all covering casts. These are all veils that was put over you, man. Okay? You know? So the Lord is destroying the face of these covering casts by revealing everybody's nationality to them according to the Bible. Through who? Through the spirit of his mouth, which are the prophets here on earth. And you people don't have to believe us. You'll believe us once, you know, you heathens go into chains and shackles. You 2/3 are destroyed. And the so-called white man is in slavery. Then everybody's nationality will be revealed to them. Okay? So, you know, we ain't got to, you know, break our backs and blood, sweat, and tears just to get you to believe what we're saying. Prophecy is going to convince you that what we're saying is true. Okay? So that covering cast is being revealed. Because, let me get that real quick. Jeremiah 49:10. Because another reason why the Edomites did this, changing the name of countries and, you know, changing the name of everybody's nationality. Another reason why he did that was to hide himself. Okay. Jeremiah 49 verse 10. But I have made Esau bare. Who is Esau? Esau is Edom. That's Genesis 36. The 36th chapter. Okay. Esau is Edom. Okay. And in which the biblical Edomites today would be the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, so it says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places. He shall not be able to hide himself. You see? And okay. You know, for you know, decades to almost hundreds of years, these self-proclaimed white people have been hiding themselves under many names, especially the social construct that was created, which they call white. They've been hiding themselves under white. Okay. And if they haven't been hiding themselves under white, they've been hiding themselves under Russian. No. I'm not a white American. I'm a Russian. No. I'm not white. I'm European. I'm a white European. You know. They've been hiding themselves under. You know. I'm Ukrainian. You know. So you're Ukrainian because you're from Ukraine. No, you're an Edomite from Ukraine. Just like how I'm an Israelite that was born and raised in America. Okay. Because just because you was born in America does not mean that you are American. Because you're not American. Okay, all of you okay, because all of you, sorry. Actually, you go in the back. Give me 1 minute. I had to get all these shits in order. Because you know, you so-called white people that was born here in America, you're not American. You're an Edomite that was born in America. Okay, if a Chinese person was born in Europe, does that mean he's European? No, he's not. He is a Moabite that was born in Europe. Okay, so you see, Esau, the Edomites, self-proclaimed white man, which starts with the so-called elites, trickling down to the rest of the nation of people, they have hid themselves under many different fraudulent names. Okay, calling themselves European, Russians, Ukrainians, Americans, you know, calling themselves Ukrainians, calling themselves Germans. But they're neither of those. According to what is your nationality according to the Bible? What do the Bible say your nationality is? And your nationality goes all the way back to who your forefather is, who the progenitor of your nation is. Okay. The progenitor of the Ishmaelites is Ishmael. That goes back to the book of Genesis, okay? The progenitor of the Moabites is Moab. The progenitor of the Ammonites is Ammon. The progenitor of the East Indians is Elam, okay? The progenitor of the Israelites is Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Okay, so who is your father? Who do your father's line go way back to according to the scriptures? Because according to the Holy Scriptures, everybody's nationality is in the Bible. Okay, there's no such thing as a white or black person. White and black are just social constructs that was created by the self-proclaimed white man, so he can further hide himself and furthermore promote or push white supremacy. Okay. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. He's not able to hide himself anymore because the world is waking up to his true biblical nationality and the fact that he's not white, he's an Edomite. In which when you go into the word Edom goes back to the Hebrew word Adawam, which is where you get the word red from. You get the word red from the word from the word Edom, and you get Edom from the Hebrew, which is Adawam. Okay, Adawam, which means red. Okay, so you so-called white people, you're not white, you're red. Point blank, period. Okay? I don't care if you get mad. I don't care if you get offended. The truth is the motherfucking truth. Esau was called red because of the blood that showed forth through his skin. You know, coming back from that hot ass blazing field. He was probably out there playing with hyenas and shit and doing all that wild shit, man. And then he came back from the field, you know, out in that hot blazing sun, and this nigga was red like a lobster because of the blood that was showing forth through his translucent skin. Okay, because that's really what makes you so-called white people red, the blood that shows forth, okay, underneath your translucent skin. Okay, so it says he shall not be able to hide himself, right? Hiding himself under all of these different fraudulent names, you know, under this social construct of being white. He can no longer hide himself. because the world is waking up to the fact that he's not white, he's red. Okay? Everybody in the whole planet is waking up to the fact that he is red. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. It says, his seed is spoiled and his brethren, his neighbors, and he is not. With that, I'm going to say shalom. It's on to the next one.